One of my favorite AI tools, a tool that not a lot of people have heard about, a tool called NotebookLM. It's from Google. It is free, and I'm going to be showing you how you can use it in content production and in lead generation. Because I know a lot of people using NotebookLM and they're not quite sure what to use it for. I'm going to give you a concrete use case you can use for your business, and hopefully that is an entryway into using NotebookLM. What is NotebookLM? Let's do a quick introduction, then I'll show you how I use it to generate leads and how I use it for content. It is a completely free tool. You head over to notebooklm.google and you can just try it out. If you're on a paid Google plan, you get a bit more usage, but honestly, I've never heard of anybody having any issues with usage. So it is, for the most part, entirely free. Now, what it is, it acts as a personal RAG system. You might be sitting there wondering, what the hell is RAG? So a RAG system, the main advantage we have when we use something like NotebookLM is that it's going to be pulling from the sources that we provided. When we use a standard large language model, it's going to be pulling on all of the training, basically, all of the information it's been trained on. That allows for the potential for hallucinations. It's going to be piecing together answers for you, but it might be piecing together incorrect information and making it sound very competent, very plausible, but in fact, you're being sold a lie and you're being told something that's not true. So NotebookLM, on the other hand, basically removes that problem. You will not be having hallucinations because you are going to feed it the sources. You're going to give it specifically what you want it to include. Very important. We're going to be able to throw into it PDFs, URLs, YouTube videos, slides, audio files, EPUBs, websites. You throw anything you want into it and it's going to use them as the sources. This is basically what a RAG system is. So Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG, you don't need to know how this works. What basically happens is the user puts in a query that would go straight to the LLM, the large language model, like 5.2, like Claude Opus or whatever it is. The large language model would compile an answer and then send a response to you. With RAG is that first, our query will be aligned with the documentation that's been provided. So often large enterprises and businesses will have a RAG system where they will feed in all of their standard operating procedures, all of their contracts, all of their customer service FAQs, all of their internal documentation into a database. And the AI, instead of going and asking a general model, will first go and find information that is relevant to that query and then include those data sources into its request to the large language model. That's all RAG is. Sounds very fancy, but all it is a lookup step beforehand where it looks at the information and then it uses that information plus the original prompt to generate a response. That's what RAG is. You just need to know that NotebookLM basically do this for you. That means that the outputs we get are going to be based on what we put in. They won't be based on search results. It's not going to go and try and find information for us, but instead it's going to work on what we have given it. So the problem we have, and this is getting less and less of an issue, but for the last couple of years, it has been a problem. Hallucinations, basically, where when an LLM will try to piece together an answer based on the huge amount of information, all of human knowledge, it's trying to piece together an answer is pulling from everywhere, from every book, every website. So that leaves space for ambiguity. When we have a user query combined with a couple of documents that we give it, YouTube videos, PDFs, EPUBs, whatever it is, then we're going to get a much better answer. So let's have a look at the interface. If you are watching live or if you're watching this later, I highly recommend opening it up. It's a simple to use piece of software. I'm going to open up NotebookLM. It's at notebooklm, or just Google it and you should be able to find it. I'm going to click on Try NotebookLM. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right account because it puts me into my default one. You can see these are my recent notebooks. Now I have a lot. I have nearly one a day. That's because I generate the slide decks using NotebookLM. That's because I create them in NotebookLM so that I can do a live stream every single day. This would not have been possible without Notebook. So let's hop in. We'll look at this one. We'll get to this in a moment, why this one in particular, and I'll talk about the kind of business uses of this, but I just want to show you the interface. We have three main elements. On the left-hand side, we have sources. This is where we decide what we want to be inside a notebook. In this case, the only source that I have is a YouTube video, which means all of this information that's been fed into this particular notebook is all from one YouTube video, specifically one of my YouTube videos. If you click on Add Sources, you can have it do a web search for you. I don't use this because the main power of NotebookLM is the fact that you get to pick and choose the sources for your queries. And if you just send it off to do research around the internet, you might as well just use another tool. Like, I don't see why you would use it in that way. So I don't know why they've emphasized this one here. More important is you can drop files. This is including if you have a textbook, for example, that you're studying, get the PDF, chuck it in. If you are reading a book for a book club and you have an EPUB or a MOBI file, you can copy and paste text in, put in anything you want. Websites, a list of links, including YouTube videos. Google owns YouTube, which means if there is a video that you want to know more about, you can paste the link into here and it's going to be able to generate a notebook based on that video. So let's say you're studying Andrej Karpathy's, let me pull up his YouTube because this stuff is fantastic. Andrej Karpathy is one of the co-creators of ChatGPT, and he has these 3 videos, for example. Introduction to large language models, deep dive into LLMs like ChatGPT, and how I use LLMs. I could grab the shortest one, this one. So recently I did... Sorry, Andrej, not right now. I'm going to grab this link. I'm going to start a new notebook, and I could plug in, there we go, that YouTube URL. What this is going to do is it's going to pull in the transcript of that video. So it's already done it. So that has grabbed all of the information from that 1-hour video with Andrej Karpathy. I can now talk to that video. This middle element here is chat, and it allows me to talk to the video and to ask questions about the video and to use this as basically a learning companion alongside. So it has some example questions here. How do base models and assistant models differ in training? Explain the concept of an LLM as an operating system, etc., etc. But I could just also chat back and forth. And instead of me chatting to Gemini as a whole, I'm now talking to this video plus Gemini. Very important distinction. We're now using RAG. It's not just me talking to the model, it's me talking to the model that knows about a particular document. Obviously, you could fill this with many sources. I recommend not doing so. I've seen some people load up NotebookLM and then load in 50, 100 sources. There's no real point doing that because you're talking to too much information and you're increasing the chance of hallucinations, mismatch information. I think this is more useful when you're talking to a small number of documents. 1, 2. I think personally that's where it really shines. So here we go. This has allowed me to talk to the video. Now notice this is really important. So here's the first paragraph here. It says, instead of viewing a large language model simply as a chatbot or a word generator, it is more accurate to conceptualize it as the kernel process of an emerging operating system. There's a 1 here. This is sourcing. It is saying where in the video this is mentioned. So it pulls up the exact text here where he says, I don't think it's accurate to think of large language models as chatbot or some kind of word generator. I think it's a lot more correct to think of it as a kernel process of an emerging operating system. So this is pulling directly from the video. This is not made up. This is based on the source material. Super important. Now, if you work in law, if you work in academia, if you work in any field where you need the information to be accurate and you can't have the LLM just making stuff up, you can already see how powerful this is going to be for us. So this goes on, and these are all of the different sourcing. If I had multiple sources instead of just the one YouTube video, it would provide where that source comes from. But this is allowing me to chat directly to the source or the sources. Very cool. If you're a student, if you're an academic, no brainer. This is fantastic. However, what I really want to show you is on the right hand side. This is the stuff over here. I'm going to load up one that I've already done the processing on, this OpenClaw handbook. This is based on one of my YouTube videos. So this transcript from Kyle Barmer explores the practical applications of OpenClaw, an autonomous AI agent, also known as Claude bot. On the right hand side, we have outputs. Inputs on the left, the sources, outputs on the right. Very briefly, we have audio. This is an audio podcast. We have slide decks, video overviews, mind maps, reports, flashcards, quizzes, infographics, and data. So if you learn visually, then sure, you can chat to this source material, but maybe it helps you to see these things. So we can generate a slide deck. So this is a slide deck, for example, based on my YouTube video. Very cool. I'll show you what that looks like very briefly. This is another way to learn. It's also another way to teach, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's another way to create content. Let's stick to learning at the moment you can use this to learn from a source. You can also create infographics. This is an infographic being created directly from the video. This is based purely on the source material. This is based on my YouTube video that I created. So it has, does it mention me at all? No, it doesn't. So it has the multiple different pillars here, the calculus changer. Yeah, so going from human request to autonomous, going from on-demand to persistent, and going from digital tool to AI employee. These are things I talk about when I talk about OpenClaw. So it's captured them here. So you can start to see the power of these different sources. It's created me a cinematic video. Let's see if I can play this.
If you're feeling a bit exhausted by the current state of artificial intelligence, you're not alone. The problem with modern AI is that it creates a massive human bottleneck. The moment you stop typing, the machine stops working. In this reactive setup,
I've just noticed that my screen isn't changing. 1 second. Oh, it is. I see what's happened. Sorry. What's happening? Okay, now it's showing. There we go. It's created a cinematic.
Finding its path forward. The interest in this framework is moving at a scale rarely seen in software. OpenClaw is currently gaining GitHub stars at a rate that rivals the early days of Linux. When the computer takes over the act of execution, the nature of work changes. The most valuable skill of the next decade isn't performing the task itself. It's the ability to manage and delegate to a digital staff. You sit at the top as the human CEO, managing a digital organizational chart of AI agents.
As you can see, it's fully animated, and it's created an explainer video for me. Really powerful stuff. You can also create different types of video. If I click on the video here, cinematic, explainer, and brief. Explainer and brief tend to be more like slideshows. So rather than a fully animated video, they'll just be a bit simpler. Cinematic is new. They only added that a couple of weeks ago, and it's fully animated, basic style. It can actually do kind of like 3D motion effects and stuff like that. So it could represent information using like video human actors. I told it not to, but you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. We also have the ability to do infographics. You can do infographics of your content, of your information. And we have briefing documents that you can summarize videos, you can summarize textbooks, you can summarize whatever sources you throw into these briefing documents, which allow you to make notes out the information. We have the audio podcast.
There's this open source project called OpenClaw, and it's basically on track to overtake Linux on GitHub within a year.
Which is just, I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
Think about that for a second. Linux, the literal foundation of the modern internet, a project that took decades to build up its dominance, and it's being eclipsed by a tool that barely even existed a short while ago.
So it creates an audio podcast, a two-hander podcast with two people. You can also join the podcast yourself. Let me see if this will work on stream. It allows you to join in the podcast and talk to the hosts.
Right now, there's this open source project called OpenClaw, and it is basically on track to overtake Linux on GitHub within a year.
I'm wondering if the popularity and the number of stars on Linux is actually a true representative. Does it really show how useful the project is, or does that just show that it's viral and potentially overhyped?
You are absolutely right that a star rating is not a direct measure of actual utility.
It's more of a cultural thermometer than a metric.
For example, it's a shame it's locked within this ecosystem. AI podcast hosts becoming a huge thing. If you've ever tried to do a podcast, generally you need another person. It's hard to do a one-person podcast, but getting somebody else you can schedule in and work together on is tricky. If somebody cracks AI podcast hosts and they do it well, that's a huge business. We can see the basics of it here inside a NotebookLM. There's the ability to quiz me. Let me make quizzes. Let me make some reports. Each of them take a few minutes to generate. You can see these are now generating on the right-hand side. It seems to have got stuck. It's very annoying. There we go. You can see they are generating on the right-hand side here. Very cool. If you want to learn something using NotebookLM, you feed in your information. You feed in your sources, you'll be able to talk to the sources, you'll be able to create various different outputs to help you learn. So if you're a student or you're trying to master any topic, right now I think we should all be students of artificial intelligence, working out how to use this stuff, then this is an incredibly useful tool and it is totally free. What I want to show you though is taking it to the next level. We can use it for research and study, content repurposing, competitive analysis, course creation, marketing prep, internal knowledge bases, client onboarding, etc. What I want to talk to you about is what I use it for. because I think this is a cool use of it and I don't see many people doing it. Basically, I use NotebookLM in a couple of ways. First up, I will think of a topic. This morning I sat down and I thought I want to do a presentation about NotebookLM. A lot of people are still not using it and they really need to. So I'm going to do a NotebookLM presentation. You're currently looking at it. This presentation was created using NotebookLM. That allows me to go live every morning on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and X every single morning, which is something that would have been impossible if I had to create this by hand. That's one way I use it. The other way I wanted to show you is once you have created a piece of content, for example, this video that I created, this is about OpenClaw, it's got a couple of thousand views. It's an hour-long video, so it's a chunky video. Once you've created something for your business, so a piece of content, you can feed that video or ebook or short form video or whatever you've created. You can feed that content back into NotebookLM to generate additional assets. Off this 1 hour video on OpenClaw, I can now create additional assets. And I did that. Let's pull that up. It's this one. For example, this infographic. I could use this infographic on LinkedIn. Infographics do really well on LinkedIn. I could make a carousel of infographics and put it on LinkedIn and then put a post around it. I can use AI to help me generate the post, and that becomes a front-end piece of content, something to capture people's attention. I can then use this infographic on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever I choose to post it to push people back to this original video, because most people are not going to sit down and watch a 1 hour long video, but I can use this as a way to push them in that direction. So that's one way to use it. Using it on the front end, so front-end asset generation. You can do many things with it. Images, infographics is the easiest, but there are other ways you can do this as well. The other thing, which I'm more interested in, is back-end assets. This is the ability to create lead magnets. Lead magnets are small pieces of information that you give away, or small things that you give away in exchange for an email. So I'll show you one of my, here we go, Claude Cowork. So I've done some videos about how to use Claude Cowork. I created a guide and a slide deck about how to use Claude Cowork. And then I throw up a little page like this, which says, hey, do you want my full guide on Claude Cowork? If you do, cool, come here, give me your email address and I'll send it over to you. Very simple. This is an example of a lead magnet. And this allows me to get a couple of hundred people into my email news list every single day. And those people potentially, some of them will become customers as well. So that's why we do lead magnets. That's the purpose of it. Now, creating lead magnets used to be a bit of a pain. Not anymore, because we can throw information into NotebookLM. And I can create infographics. I could create a slide deck like this. This is a slide deck that is created off the back of this video. I could say, hey, do you want this slide deck? If you want this slide deck, give me your email address and I'll send it over to you. And I could place that below this video here. So you can see the power of this, because I can now create something very nice looking in moments, something that is very useful for the people. And I'm just basing this on an existing video that I'd already created. You can also be a bit cheeky and you can find really successful videos that are already doing well and you can convert them into lead magnets. That's a very good idea. So if you, let's do OpenClaw, for example. OpenClaw, let's find the most successful video. The Wild Rise of OpenClaw, 2 million views. So I could throw this video into NotebookLM, and that's going to pull this video in. I can then create a slide deck, or I could create a PDF guide about how to set up NotebookLM, and then I could use that as a lead magnet for my own website. Obviously, this is specific to me. You're not going to create an OpenClaw guide. You're going to create something that's connected to your business. So let's say you are an accountant in the UK, and let's say there's some kind of tax change, UK 2026. Massive tax changes 2026. It's got 100,000 views. It's probably a good one.
UK tax system is good.
Grab this, create a notebook, drop it in, and then create a report. And I would brand it my own branding. I would add my own twist to it. I would change it around. If you click here, you can create your own in reports. So you can add specific details about how you wanted to adjust this. I want to focus on Henry's. So that is high earners, not rich yet. And it is going to adjust it to it. I can create slide decks, mind maps, infographics, etc. based on someone else's content. I'd rebrand it, I'd remix it, I'd chop and change it to make it useful for my particular business. So you can probably see the massively powerful things we can do with this already. This is just one example. one of many. If you want to get this slide deck and all the extra details, you can, because it's going to be a lead magnet. It's going to be something I give away. And in fact, if you go to aiwithkyle.com/join, so my website, /join, or click on join the community on the main page, I'll send it over in the newsletter. So there we go. It is an example of a lead magnet. The other thing you can do, okay, this is just talking about lead magnets. The other thing you can do, if you want to get really fancy with this, is here we are, Tunglin. You can connect NotebookLM to Claude Code. You can connect it up to other systems. So I have set up a system where I have a research agent which goes out and finds topics for me. It will find videos that are popular. It will find topics that are popular, what's trending right now. It will feed them back, and then we can use this NotebookLM.py, so the unofficial Python API, to connect to NotebookLM. So it will take the trending topics, the hot topics, the topics that I want to cover, and it will automatically go over to NotebookLM and produce the assets that I want. This allows you to do it at scale. This allows you to do it automatically. So you're not going in here, clicking around and creating my things piece by piece. You'd be able to do this systematically using a Python integration. At the moment, there is not an official API for NotebookLM. So instead, we need to use the unofficial Python API. So it's a bit of a faff, but it works really well. So in Claude Code, you're just going to point Claude Code at this repository and say, can you install this and can you connect to NotebookLM? And it's going to be able to do so. Very cool. So this will all be in the newsletter, how specifically you can use this to generate lead magnets, but also generally this is a tool that you should be using as well, because it's very useful for students. Very useful for learning anything that you want to learn and for mastering material. So that is NotebookLM. Make sure you are not sleeping on it. I'm going to hop over to the questions. I can see someone complaining about AI slop, so we'll talk about that. The screen's frozen on TikTok. Something's gone wrong with the video. Hopefully we have some decent recordings. Very annoying. Which Google subscription do you need? You don't. I think you just need a Google account. It's free to use. You can hop in and use that. So what's going on with my... Yeah, the screen's frozen on TikTok. Very annoying. Sorry, TikTok. I'll try and fix that after the stream. NotebookLM or Gemini. So this is NotebookLM. Gemini is the underlying AI system, but it is NotebookLM. They've actually built NotebookLM integration into Gemini as well, so I'm sure they'll just merge together. Can you control the output? Specify what to focus on? Yes, like you can with the podcast. You can. The cool way to do that is you can add notes. You can add manual notes in here, and you can either write this yourself or you can generate this using AI. Once you have created your take or given some guidelines, you can convert that into a source. Once it's converted into a source, that enters the list of sources here, and it will be used in the generation of assets as well. So you can use that to nudge things in a certain direction. On the slide decks, when you create an asset like a slide deck, you can describe the specifics. So I will say something like AI with Kyle, branding, plain, clean white slides with purple highlights. And then I'll also add things that I want it to focus on. You can also give it the kind of slide structure like slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. It doesn't necessarily always abide to that, but I think you can nudge it. This is why it's important not to fill it with sources, because if you fill this with sources, it's going to create a more generic slide deck. It's going to create something that is not close to what you are focusing on. That's why I generally use a small number of sources here, and I can add notes to manually adjust and add some additional context. And then finally, at this point of generation, you can add notes as well. It's not perfect, but it allows you to kind of get close. You can adjust. Now this is not perfect, but it will get better. You can edit and revise the slides. So let's say you see this slide and you're like, oh, that title is terrible. You can say, change the title job killer, for example. Generate revised deck, and then it will regenerate. It's a bit clunky, it's a bit slow. I imagine this will get better and better. But right now, that's how you do it, and it's okay. Manus, interestingly, has a better version of this, which uses Nano Banana behind the scenes. That's how we're creating slide decks here. But Manus allows you to select individual elements and change them around. Really cool. I'm sure Notebook will add that as well. Custom configuration on the chat can help. You can have it in learning guide, custom, so you can change how it responds to you. By default, it responds to you is very academic. The fact that it's sourcing absolutely everything. So you can adjust it. You can say, hey, I'm a student. I don't know anything about this. Can you guide me through this step by step? Or explain it to me like I'm 5. You can reduce the level if you need to, so you can work with it as a personal tutor. Sorry, the screen broke. I'm not sure why. People don't read slides. It depends what you use them for. If you want to make a presentation like the one I've just done, then making slides is really useful. If you want to create a presentation for work and you don't want to spend hours and hours working on a presentation, then you can use it as well. At times and places, I'm using it to produce YouTube videos, basically. If you don't want a slide deck, don't make a slide deck. Make something else. No problem. It's Monday for the streaming software as well. I don't know why TikTok is broken. Let me see if I can... Okay, that's fixed it. But it was broken all this time. I apologize. If everyone did this, there'd be no new content, just people waiting for other people to make AI slop. You of all people should complain on this. Me personally? No, I think this is wonderful. As I mentioned, there was no way I could sit down every single morning and do a half an hour long presentation about a topic. Absolutely no way. And as you can see, if you come back to my NotebookLM, that's exactly what I've done. So we can pull up this one, for example. Daisy. This is just one example. So yes, I've used AI to create the slide deck, but it's based on my own thoughts. It's based on my own teaching. It's based on YouTube videos. It's based on me going back and forth on ideas. Also, sitting down and doing these presentations helps me to think. So for me, doing these live shows is about thinking. It's about hashing out ideas. It's about being able to talk to people, find out what they're interested in, and then build more based on that. No, I disagree. I don't think this is AI slop. I think this is a useful tool for educating and becoming educated. So AI is the tool. We can use it in different ways. We could use it to generate complete sloppy art. I'm not a big fan of that personally. When Sora got cancelled the other day, I did not shed any tears. I don't think that's a very useful use of AI. However, I think this is what we're seeing on screen, the ability to create educational content, the ability to create content for our business, to drive our business, to change our lives, to learn, to grow. I think it's a good use of AI, not slop. So no, I don't complain on this personally. Is this different to Claude Cowork? Yes. Claude Cowork is an assistant. So Claude Cowork allows you to schedule and automate tasks. It can now take, as of last week, it can take control of your computer, which is really cool. It's slow as hell, but as a preview of what it's going to be like in the future, really useful. But NotebookLM is purely, it's a RAG system. So it allows us to give it documentation and to create content or ask queries based on the documents that we give it. So it's very specific, but I think a very useful tool. Have you tried Paperclip already? No, I have not. No, I have not yet. It's on my list. 40,000 stars. Good job. Actually, I've got a project I need something like this for. Yeah, I should probably mess around with this. I'm moving countries in about a week. My business partner just had a baby as well. So we're running at lower capacity than usual. So there's a lot of things that need to be covered, which have not been covered yet. What's your offer for subscription include? Oh, it's free. It's a free newsletter. So every single day I do a live stream like the one you're watching now. That will be converted into a YouTube video, but also into a newsletter. So for example, let's find one. This one. This is a presentation I gave probably last week. So you can see the full video at the top, but inside of the newsletter, you can get the guide, the how-to guide, and then a PDF at the end. This is all free. So this is in the newsletter if you want to grab it. Any tips to deal with the frustration of missing ChatGPT 5.1? Yeah, it's tricky with GPT 5.1, there's a couple of ways. You can still get it on the API. I'm pretty sure it's on the API. I haven't tried to use it, but yeah, so it's still there. So you can set up your own app that uses 5.1. Easiest way to do that would be in something like Lovable. You can still use GPT 5.1. You can also play around with it still in the playground. It's still available. Oh, I'm not logged in for some reason. So it is around. It's just been removed from the app. Alternatively, you can use a tool like a model aggregator. So you pay them $20 a month and it gives you access to all of the models. GPT 5.1 will be one of them as well. So there are still ways to get access, just not via the official ChatGPT app, unfortunately. I know a lot of people liked 5.1, a lot of the same people who liked 4.0. 5.1 was the model that they moved to from 4.0. So for them to get rid of that as well is frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So again, yeah, the answer is you can use it via the API if you know how to do that. Alternatively, you can use an aggregator, basically. So this live will be in YouTube in full. Yes, it will be. Everything will be on YouTube in full. It will be edited and tidied up as well. I'm going to finish up for the day because somebody seems to be moving house behind this wall and making lots of noise. Let's finish. Everything is available in the newsletter. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, click on join the community, you're going to be able to get access. And there's a whole bunch of free courses in there as well. aiwithkyle.com courses. Got a 10-week course here, an AI workshop masterclass, a catalogue of over 100 different playbooks, and just a whole bunch of stuff. Make sure that you are joined up at aiwithkyle.com. Follow me on YouTube and all the other social platforms as well, and I will see you with another live. Thank you, guys.